Hello everyone, welcome back to Believer Science Academy. This is the daily news analysis. Today, that is 20th August 2025, we will discuss some 5 to 6 important articles. First article is respect to front page of the Bangalore edition of Hindu. It talks about Supreme Court stepped in due to egregious situation in Tamil Nadu Governor case. We will see the background to this Tamil Nadu Governor case and what is the current context. Relevant in UPSC GS paper 2, Polity and Governance, and the issue was the governor of Tamil Nadu, that is R.N. Ravi, had withheld assent or delayed action for several bills for a long period of time, and certain bills were pending from 2020. So this case was taken up by Supreme Court. The Tamil Nadu government argued that this was a violation of constitutional provisions and undermined the principles of parliamentary democracy and federalism. Then this matter reached to Supreme Court in 2023. The Supreme Court in 2023, the bench headed by Justice Chandrachud, said that governor cannot indefinitely sit on bills passed by state assembly. So the court invoked Article 200, that is the governor's powers regarding the bill, and based on this Article 200, Supreme Court gave certain judgments. That Supreme Court judgment is governor is not an elected body, so he must act in the aid and advice of Council of Ministers as per Article 163. Next, if the governor withholds assent, he must return the bill as soon as possible to the assembly with the message. And in case if the assembly passes the bill again with or without the changes or amendments, the governor is constitutionally bound to give assent. This aspect was considered very controversial because at the constitutional level, this doesn't have. This aspect or this provision is not provided in the original constitution. The court noted that governor's delaying bill undermines the federal structure and causes constitutional deadlock. So, in the particular Tamil Nadu case, since the governor had failed to act for years, the court treated bill as having deemed assent once the assembly repassed them in 2023. Okay, that is what happened with respect to Tamil Nadu case. However, now that Supreme Court, the case is again reached Supreme Court. The Supreme Court in today's context in 2025 said that the Tamil Nadu governor case was egregious situation. That is, normally Supreme Court would not force a deemed assent order, but in Tamil Nadu's case, the governor's extraordinary delay since 2022 was abuse of constitutional discretion. So the Supreme Court has to step in to prevent constitutional breakdown. The court allowed bills to be treated as a law in force. Now there is a presidential breach, the new present reference breach is there. So what happens in current context? A presidential reference under Article 143 was made asking the Supreme Court for its opinion on the scope of governor's power under Article 200. The five-judge bench headed by Chief Justice of India B.R. Gawai clarified that they are not overruling the 2023 judgment case. They are only examining the constitutional position in general, that is under Article 200. The Tamil Nadu case facts were glaring and egregious, justifying the Supreme Court's extraordinary step to grant deemed assent. So the attorney general's argument in this case is that governor had certain reasons to keep the bill pending. Under Article 200, he can withhold assent and is not bound to act solely on the Council of Ministers' advice. So the government's argument was that the court overruling this constitutional provision under 200 is nothing but breach of separation of power. Okay, breach of separation of power, and it is nothing but a judicial overreach that should not be followed in the upcoming cases. So this particular tabular form will be given in the document. If you want this document to download, you can go in the link, or you can also follow Believer Science Academy YouTube Telegram channel, or also Believer Science Academy website. You'll find this document. I provided a tabular format. So what is Article 200, what is the Supreme Court judgment, and what happened with respect to Tamil Nadu case, and what is the current context, and what is the outcome of this one, which I already explained here, but it is made it simple for you guys to remember and recall it. Next, CAG on Karnataka's guarantee schemes 2023-2024. So one of the most hot topic of 23-24 was Karnataka's 5 guarantee schemes. Many people were discussing about these freebies. Many people said that it is eroding the free and fair elections. In the dream of or in the hope of freebies, many people are voting for a particular party. In this particular Karnataka's case, many people voted for Congress party. As a result, Congress was able to make the government in Karnataka without the need of any coalition. Now the CAG report has come and it has brought certain interesting insights into this. So the CAG audit report of 23-24 flagged concerns over Karnataka's 5 guarantee schemes. For example, Griha Lakshmi, Yuvanidhi, etc., Bhagya Lakshmi, and there are 5 total schemes. The key findings were the guarantee scheme is equal to 15% of the revenue expenditure in 23-24, and the revenue growth was just 1.86%, which was very low considering the Karnataka's growth and also very low considering the past trends of Karnataka. Then the expenditure growth was 12.54%, of which was mainly due to the guarantee schemes. As a result, the revenue deficit rose to 9,271 crores despite the recovery in 23-24 from the COVID sum. Okay, so whatever the recovery the government of Karnataka had made post COVID-19 was vanished away again because of these schemes. So the CAG has warned that without the rationalization of existing schemes or subsidies or financial assistance, these schemes will strain states' resources and also influence fiscal deficit and debt levels, which will be beyond repair in some period of time. So the finance department of the Karnataka government's view is that the schemes have boosted economy, have reduced inequality, and supported human capital development. Cash transfers like Yuvanidhi and Griha Lakshmi have improved youth and women's empowerment, security, and purchasing power. The CAG finally put a balancing point. We agree, we understand the positive outcomes of these schemes. However, we should take into consideration the future applications or implications of these schemes. So, recognize social benefits and also warns of the long-term fiscal stress if the subsidies are not restructured. Next, let us have a discussion about CAG, that is Controller and Auditor General of India. It is a constitutional body under Article 148 and 151, Part 5 and Chapter 5 of the Constitution. The CAG is appointed by the President and is independent of any executive control. The tenure is 6 years or till the age of 65 years. The removal, similar to Supreme Court judge, only by Parliament on the grounds of proven misbehavior or incapacity. So, the process of removal of CAG is similar to Supreme Court judge. Okay, they are saying it is similar to Supreme Court. Okay, if it is similar to Supreme Court judge, sorry. Okay, similar to Supreme Court judge. So Supreme Court, it is similar to Supreme Court judge. So the Election Commission is also in news. The CAG is now in news. So all these have the same removal process. So let us understand the removal process. So the removal process of this Supreme Court judge, Election Commission, CAG is based on 2 grounds. One is proven misbehavior or incapacity. Okay, proven misbehavior or incapacity. So the process starts like this. So first the initiation. Once the motion for this removal is introduced, it has to be accepted by house of either house, both in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. But to be accepted, it requires support of 100 members in Lok Sabha and 50 members in Rajya Sabha. Once it gets initial support of these members, then it goes to house. It will be accepted in any house which is introduced. Once it is accepted in the house, then for example, if it is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, in Lok Sabha, the speaker, or in Rajya Sabha, the chairman, he is going to constitute a committee of 3 members, which will look into the allegations of this incapacity or proven misbehavior. If they find out the proven misbehavior or incapacity is true, then it will be accepted in the Lok Sabha and the procedure starts. Once it starts, it has to be passed by both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha with a special majority. Special majority, what is the special majority? The special majority in this case is total 50% of the house and 2/3 majority. Okay, so once it is accepted by both the houses, then it goes to president and if the president gives assent, then they are bound to be or said to be impeached. Okay, said to be impeached. So this aspect of 50 plus 2 by 3 majority is very difficult to obtain. So as a result, none of the Supreme Court judges or none of the election commissioners or none of the CAGs have been removed in this process. Okay, so just a process because it is important for you. Next, functions. Audits all receipts and expenditures of Government of India and states. Audits government companies and corporations as per Companies Act. Ensures accountability of public funds and checks wasteful or unauthorized expenditure. Submits reports to President or Governor who lays them before the Parliament or state legislature. The significance, called guardian of the public purse and ensures financial transparency and legislative oversight. And CAG is also supportive wing for financial committees such as Public Accounts Committee and Public Undertaking Committee. Okay. Next, tribute to MS Swaminathan. So, relevance both for GS3 and GS2. Next, why it is in news? Because on the centenary year of MS Swaminathan, that is the 100th birthday celebration of MS Swaminathan, the architect of Green Revolution, a new biography was written by Priyambada Jayakar, which is MS Swaminathan, the man who fed India, which highlights his personal and professional journey. He says that lessons from Swaminathan's work are vital for India's future aspirations of Vikasit Bharat and Atmanirbharta in science and technology. What we followed with respect to agriculture, that can be followed in science and technology in India to achieve the Atmanirbharta and Vikasit Bharat. So, the key lessons from Swaminathan's experience. First is collaboration and global networking. Green Revolution succeeded through international collaborations such as linkages to Norman Borlaug, Mexico, Japan, and USA. Next, there were bureaucratic delays of up to 2 years just to invade Borlaug, showed the need of easing the scientific exchange, ease of scientific exchange, and reduce red tape. So the lesson here is Indian scientists must be well connected internationally with the freedom to travel and collaborate. Okay, so he focuses or emphasizes on the significance of collaborations between the scientists. Next, political leadership must listen to scientists. Okay, he says that bureaucracy is often dismissive of research. It leads to delays in funding of trials. So C. Subramaniam was the agriculture minister of 1964, was a pioneer of the Green Revolution, was directly engaging with the scientists, trusted Swaminathan's advice and backed trials. So this has to be the way forward with respect to science and technology in current context as well. Lesson is ministers should have technical awareness and respect for scientific advice, and the decision making should not rest solely with the generalist bureaucracy. This point can be used as a supportive point for debate on specialist and generalist debate in UPSC or IAS, specialist versus generalist debate. You can also use this as a supportive point with respect to lateral entry in public services. Okay, fine. Next, the third lesson is handling conflicting opinions. Finance Ministry, Planning Commission, left groups opposed large-scale seed imports. PM Shastri and Indira Gandhi personally reviewed evidence and supported Green Revolution. So the lesson is, in complex reforms, dissenting views must be heard, but bold political decision making with independent monitoring is very, very crucial. Okay, next is success and warnings. By 1968, India became self-sufficient in wheat, reducing dependency on US food aid under PL 480. But Swaminathan had later warned about ecological cost, that is water depletion, fertilizer overuse, etc. with respect to Green Revolution. So lesson is technological advances must be coupled with sustainable corrections. That is, whenever you are addressing the aspirations of development, we should also keep in mind the need of environment. So in order to read this, we have to go for sustainable development. Okay. Next, relevance for today and future with respect to climate change will severely impact productivity. Therefore, there is a need for research-led adaptation is critical. And agriculture research and development, India spends only about 4.43% of agri GDP on research and development, whereas China spends double. China has 8 agriculture research institutions in top 10 worldwide, whereas India has only 9 or none in top 200. Okay, China's 8 out of top 10. India has none in top 200. Needed reforms: increase in the research and development funding, grant autonomy to research institutions to attract talent, foster scientist policy maker linkages like Swaminathan had. With this, we'll be able to address the issues of present and future as well. Next, uh, this you can just read on your own. So instead of this, we'll go to this one. That is from the text and context of Hindu. That is how India's youth can challenge US tariffs. We all know the context is the tariff and India's trade challenges. US President Donald Trump has imposed 50% tariffs on Indian imports, including a 25% penalty for oil purchase from Russia. This makes Indian products uncompetitive compared to Vietnam or Bangladesh, hurting sectors like textile, pharma, and IT services. India risks job and income losses while US demands more access to Indian agricultural markets, which may hurt Indian farmers. The China factor is China's dominance comes from scale, infra, and technological brilliance or capacity, and not just low wages. It commands 36.3% of global textile exports compared to India's just 4.4%, and 24.9% of machinery compared to India's 0.9%. China's grip on global supply chains plus rare earth minerals ensures it is continued US engagement is there, while India risks marginalization if it relies only on the cheap labor. Okay, what happens with cheap labor is if the only attraction you can bring is the cheap labor. Okay, I'll explain here. Okay, so if the only attraction you can provide to foreign investor, only attraction you can provide to foreign investors is cheap labor, then there is a threat of someone else providing cheaper labors. Someone else providing cheaper labors. So this I will explain with the example of Malaysia. Malaysia, a Southeast Asian country, was one of the pioneer with respect to capitalization and with respect to Southeast Asian growth. Southeast Asian growth. So how did it achieve the growth in Malaysia? It was because of cheap labor. The cheap labor was allowed in Malaysia, and as a result, many of the countries started coming to Malaysia. It resulted in more investment, more growth, etc., etc. It resulted in increase in the increase in wages, increase in labor, etc., etc. So what happened over time? When there is more development, when there is more involvement, when there is more investment, etc., this cheap labor starts earning more, and they start demanding more. And once the cheap labor now becomes a costly labor. Once the cheap labor starts becoming the costly labor, what happens because of this? The companies which came to the particular country because there was a cheap labor available. Now what they will look? They will look for some other country where there is cheaper labor. In this particular case, the companies started shifting towards then India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, and other Southeast Asian countries like Cambodia, etc., etc., where more cheaper labor was available. Okay, as a result, Malaysia fell into what is called as middle income crisis. Or slow growth crisis. This is what India is facing at the moment. India's initial push and India's initial advantage over other countries was the availability of cheap labor. As a result, more investment came post 1991 reforms. Now the average capital income is increasing. As a result, more. People are demanding higher wages. Obviously, what is going to happen? If there is another cheaper labor source available anywhere in the world, people will start moving to that particular country. For example, what is happening with respect to Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Cambodia. They will look towards moving away from India to Vietnam. So, what should be the way forward then? India should follow Chinese model or Korean model. Chinese or Korean model. Chinese or Korean model. What did they do? Initially, China and Korea also attracted investment because of their cheap labor, attracted investment. After that, once they started gaining investment, once they started gaining economic empowerment, what they did was they started focusing on technology. They started focusing on producing the products. Instead of just being the service provider, they started focusing on manufacturing. They started producing the products. And as a result, many of the important companies, for example, with respect to Korea, Samsung, LG, Hyundai, and with respect to China, Xiaomi, BYD, they started investing more in research and development, and now they are no longer just service provider, they are manufacturer, they are now exporting things. As a result, they were able to escape out of this cheap labor trap, or they were able to escape out of this middle income trap and move towards greater success. This is what India should do. India should invest more in research and development. India should invest more in its youth. India should invest more in its youth. That is what this article is arguing for. Hope it is clear now. Now let us go back to the article. So, that says that there should be shift from export led to domestic growth. They say that Western markets are aging, protectionist and unequal, reducing their demand. So, India must pivot from being only a low cost producer to also a large consumer base requiring higher wages, skills and innovation. Okay, so that is what, along with focusing on research and development, India should also focus on building a large consumer base within India. That is what China has started doing. Next, India's youth has strategic advantage. 1 in 5 global youth is Indian. Around 120 million Indians are aged between 15 to 29 are in schools and colleges. So, with the skill enhancement and research and development, India's youth can drive knowledge-based economy. Indian diaspora in the USA, that is 3.2 million in 2023, already shows potential of brain circulation. If USA restricts Indian talent inflows, it risks losing out innovation and growth. So, the way forward is India must invest in education, health, innovation and research and development. Domestic businesses should move up value chain, and youth-driven demand and productivity can shield India from global shocks like tariffs. So, similar to what China and Korea did with respect to these companies, the Indian companies, like the big companies like Tata, Reliance, and other important companies, apart from producing the domestic goods, they should also focus on research and development. They should focus on research and development. They should also focus on becoming enablers rather than just recruiters. Enablers rather than just recruiters. How they can become enablers? By providing employable skills. Providing employable skills. Employable skills to youth. Okay, this is how India can turn from this cheap labor crisis or middle income trap crisis to turn into a success story similar to China or South Korea. Now, prelims pointers. So, Henry Vivian Dorazio, it was in news because this article was covered in text and context. So, his time period was 1809 to 1831, so just lived for a period of around 22 to 23 years of age. The context is he was an Anglo-Indian poet, thinker, teacher at Hindu College, Calcutta. He is considered as the first national poet of modern India and founder of Young Bengal movement. He was dismissed from his post in 1831 for propagating radical ideas of rationalism, freedom and atheism. And his contributions are, first is the Young Bengal movement, which was in the 1820s and 1830s, one of the pioneer movement for social reforms in India. His students, known as Dwarasians, formed academic associations where debates on liberty, equality and women's rights and social reform took place. They questioned orthodoxy in religion, caste and social practices like sati and child marriage, spread of rationalism and free thought. encouraged students to apply reason over tradition, promoted scientific temper, secular outlook, and equality. First group in India to openly discuss atheism and women's emancipation. Next is about political awakening. He inspired the formation of Bengal British India Society, which is India's first political association demanding for welfare and just rights for all the classes. It marked beginning of political consciousness in colonial India preceding the Indian National Congress. The literary nationalism, his poems like the Fakir of Jangira, not the Faker, the Fakir of Jangira, and patriotic verses portrayed India as a enslaved but capable of rebirth. Called India a chained eagle, an early nationalist metaphor for colonial subjugation. Okay. Next and the last article is about Saharia tribe and the key facts. It is in news because a recent genetic study revealed a link associated with the universally high prevalence of tuberculosis in Saharia tribe of central India. Identity and distribution. They are particularly vulnerable tribal groups, that is PVTGs, and population is around 6 lakh according to census 2021, and they are found in Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, scattered around few other states as well, and Rajasthan as well. Other names are Seher, Sair, Savar, Saunar, Sahara, etc. etc. The settlement and housing, they reside in separate village clusters called as Saharana. Houses built with stone boulders and slabs. Mud houses are also common. Joint family system, strong caste-based proximity in villages. Language and culture, lost original language, now speak local dialects like Hindi, Bundeli, etc. They follow traditional ethnic faiths with the Hindu influences and folk dances. They have Saharia Swang, which is followed or performed during the Holi. Male and female attire dances with beats of dhol, nagari, and matki. And their economy or livelihood is a forest-based tribe, depend on minor forest producers plus a small agriculture, known for making cashew or katha from the khair trees. Work as landless laborers, seasonal migration is common here. And the vulnerabilities, and because of the recent finding as well, high TB prevalence because of genetic as well as socio-economic conditions. Malnutrition, poverty, and marginalization is very high, and then lack of healthcare access in remote forested settlements also aggravates these issues. So this is the news analysis for the day. I have covered these topics in holistically. So any doubts if you have, you can write it in the comment box. If you like the video, then please show the appreciation by hitting the like, comment on it, and also sharing with your friends. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and also click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.